The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
I love that part. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Edward Jones the Fourth. This is
Latanya Jones.
and this is the Family First podcast, where we talk about family, relationships, marriage, and sometimes
Nothing at all.
nothing at all. It is so good to be back after a week off. We kind of had a family first emergency that we had to attend to last week.
Yeah.
So, but it's good to be back. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And so today we are in the midst of a conversation. This month, the month of June, is Men's Mental Health Month
Mm-hmm.
or Mental Health Awareness
Mm-hmm.
Month. And so we thought that it would be good to talk about, mental health when it comes to men. You are the resident clinician.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with men, especially with husbands and having teen boys or about to be out of their teens. Lord have mercy, they're about to be out of their teens. But just mental health, uh, things that we should be aware of, some of the mental struggles
Mm-hmm.
that we as men and particularly African American men deal with on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
and some things that our loved ones might need to recognize and be on the lookout for. That maybe we need your husband, your boyfriend, your son might need some professional help.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that? You talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I mental health in the African American community, sometimes it has a negative connotation. We don't want to say that people need help,
Mm-hmm.
especially men, because the men, we're supposed to be strong. We are supposed to have it together. Good evening, Bernetta. We are supposed to have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot show signs of quote unquote weakness.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot show signs of vulnerability. We cannot talk about our feelings, our emotions, and things of that nature. And sometimes that causes so much destruction in our family units, because if as the men in our relationships aren't able to deal with those or confront those things, oftentimes, and we're not able to address the other needs or those same needs that our children may have. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me, what do you think about that?
Yeah. Definitely Black community, men in general, but especially I think in the Black community, this is where you see a major issue where men are not getting the help that they need. They are suffering, just going through suffering in silence.
Mm.
And this, what makes it so sad is that um it's just become so normal that men go through that. You
Mhm.
know, you shouldn't have issues because you a man, be strong.
Mhm.
Men don't cry. And you, when you think about it, even as a little boy,
Right, right.
little boys are told, man up,
Mhm.
don't cry.
Mhm.
What you crying for?
Yeah.
So you're told that from a little boy. When you become a man, I'm not supposed to cry. I'm not
Right.
supposed to show weakness. I'm not supposed to need help. I'm supposed to have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, to me, it's just so dangerous. The situation that men have been in for years, for generations, this cycle of just going through suffering and silence
Mm-hmm.
and not getting the help that's needed. And we need to, as a society, we need to really just normalize and say it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to get therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to get help. It is okay. And even if you're coming, we say, we Christians, we love Jesus. You can love Jesus and still go to therapy.
That's right. That's right.
It's okay to have that too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make it normal, that this is normal, that if you realize that you are dealing with stressors that's causing you to feel overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
and you are feeling anxious, or you find yourself feeling depressed, go get help.
Amen.
Go get help.
That's good because, but the interesting thing is, because I was just thinking, if our tooth is hurting, we're gonna go to the dentist.
Absolutely.
If our, part of our body is hurting, we're having aches and pains, we're gonna go to the doctor. If our eyes are, we're gonna go to the optometrist. But if there is psycho emotional things going on, we won't go.
Yeah.
But the thing is, sometimes we as men, we won't go to the regular doctors either.
Well, so I was gonna comment on that.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, studies show that Black men don't go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, and they don't go unless it's like just they have no other choice. They have to be near death in order to go to a doctor. But you're talking about preventative
yes,
maintenance and care. They don't do it, and that is a problem. So you do see that, but most definitely we have to change our mindset, just in terms of instead of looking at it as, oh, getting therapy, that's a luxury sort of thing.
Right.
I don't need it. It's not necessary. Not a big deal. I can handle it on my own. And that's really not what therapy is about. Therapy it's not about if you're strong enough. It's not about, what you can handle mentally. That's not what it's about. So we have to really kind of change our perspective and our views on what mental health is. What does that look like? How do we get that? Steps to achieve it, and then how can we support each other in that?
Yeah, that's so good, because we start at such a young age, and we hear just the negativity about mental health, because we hear things like, "Man, you crazy."
Right.
And so you don't want to be seen as crazy. If I have a therapist, that means I'm crazy. It's, Sister Rogers, Deborah Rogers, Therese Aces. But it sometimes seeing a therapist will keep you from going crazy.
Yeah.
It's not a sign that you are crazy.
Yeah.
And so there are so many things that we'll find out that are chemical in our
Chemical imbalances, yeah.
chemical imbalances, and so we need to they get evened out. And so we need to really access those things, because what happens is, what we don't understand is, a lot of our drug problems that we have in our community is because people are self-medicating.
Yes. With alcohol,
Or
drugs,
drugs,
all
right?
kind.
They're self-medicating, and they're wondering why I got it, because because they didn't go see a therapist. And so they're finding an escape, or they're finding the dopamine, or the endorphins that are released, that those different things bring, instead of getting to a therapist
Mm-hmm.
instead of getting to someone that can diagnose if there's something going on. And we need to do that. Please stop bringing. Well, I'm not going to say it that way. Please understand that I can't pray everything away.
Mm-hmm.
If I just get them to the pastor, and the pastor, if the pastor prays hard enough for them, the missionaries pray hard enough for them, or the mothers lay hands on the little girl and pray hard enough, everything will be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes people need. If I was in church, I'd say write this down. But sometimes people need prayer
And a therapist.
and a prescription.
Yeah. And a doctor.
And you need you need a prayer, a physician, and a prescription.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we need to understand that, and we need to help one another. So those are different things. And so, what are some of the things that we can do as parents? Because once you get older, it's hard to break some of those habits. So, how do we raise our children? And I think about how we raise our boys and to express themselves, or to it's okay to cry, or it's okay to feel these things, which is good for your mental health. What are some of the things that, as parents, do you think is good that we do to make sure that our young men have start good mental health regimen?
Well, I think just as I'm listening to you, I think one of the first things that we have to do as parents, but just people in general, in our circles, is that we have to normalize going to the doctors. Like, just even the whole perspective on just medical period, we have to change our thoughts on that, because there's just a lot of us, too many of us, we don't want to go to the doctor. We're scared to go to the doctor. If we go to the doctor, that means we're gonna get a bad diagnosis, and so we don't want to have anything to do with it. And a lot of times, we would rather avoid going and just feel like I can figure it out. I can Google and figure out something, on my own. So I think the more that we start to normalize, okay, yeah, I'm going to the doctor to get my checkup. And, even normalize talking about, I was feeling overwhelmed, and I just felt that I needed to go see a therapist. So having those conversations and making it's normal. It's okay. It's not, oh my God, you had to go get therapy. Something must be wrong with you. Well, no. I think just start by normalizing those conversations, especially with our kids, so that they know it's okay if you need to seek help. It doesn't make you less than if you have to. And then, like you said, making it okay with them being able to express themselves, and communicate how they're feeling. If you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling stressed about something or anxious about something, okay, thank you for letting me know. Now we're gonna work to develop some type of coping skills, so you can be able to cope with what's happening. I remember having a conversation recently, maybe a couple months ago, with one of the boys, just about anxiety and feeling anxious, because of school, and just letting him know it's okay to feel anxious. We all feel stress in our lives, and it's normal. That is a normal part of just being a human being,
Right.
is that we all have stress that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
So it's okay. However, this is how you deal with it. And these are some things. And so, based upon the things that he likes to do and what he likes, okay, we come up now. These are some different ways that'll help you cope when you're starting to feel anxious. And so, as he started to do that, he was like, "Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. That was really helpful." And so, just having that conversation and let him know it's okay. This is what we're here for.
Right.
And then helping them to identify, because believe it or not, A lot of people will say that they don't have any kind of support system,
Mhm.
that they don't have anybody that they can go to and talk to in times of stress or trouble, anybody that they trust. That is foundational for good mental health,
Mhm.
is having a good support system. So reiterating to him, I was telling him, hey, you got a good support system. You got me, you got your dad,
Mhm.
grandma, auntie, you got all of us. We love you. We're here for you.
Mhm.
You can tell us anything.
Mhm.
No judgment.
Mhm.
And so that made him felt better, and he felt comfortable. And I think those are some things that we can do with our children to make them feel comfortable in discussing their mental health.
Those are great things. I was also thinking about um, not just taking our children or to therapy or to involve them in it, but also to be invested and involved in it and advocate even in that, because sometimes uh, in our community, doctors and physicians, psychologists, psychiatrists just want to hop our kids up on meds,
Yeah.
and they don't really care if it's really something that needs medication or not, or they want to label our children one thing or another.
Hmm.
So we have to make sure that we are advocating. So what did the doctor say? No, you know what? I want to see somebody else.
Just like
Yeah,
you would do with a regular medical doctor.
exactly.
You always are doing your research. You are always looking, you're reading, and making sure that information is sound. And so that if your gut is telling you something's not right here,
Hmm.
it just doesn't seem right,
Hmm.
then you're probably right. And so you continue to find, but believe it or not, now there are more psychologists out there, there are more psychiatrists out there, therapists that look like us.
That's important. Yeah.
And I think that's important. And so we have to, when we're looking for a therapist, or we're looking, if you need to take your child to the doctor to get them tested, you have to definitely do your research.
Hmm.
Um, and know, like, if they say, hey, I'm going to prescribe Adderall. Okay, let's look up
Right.
Adderall.
Right.
Let's look at the effects.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this and do some research, and see what other things that we can do.
Hmm.
And that's helpful. So like you said, you have to be engaged
Hmm.
in the process from beginning to end.
That's good. That's good. So, um, I think about some of the things um, that as a dad that I've tried to do to encourage mental health
Hmm.
um, with my sons. One of the things that that I do all the time is that I tell my sons I love them.
Hmm.
I tell my sons I love them all the time. I mean, I hug my sons. They're
Hmm.
19, about to be 20, but I still tell them I love
Hmm.
them. I still hug them, show them affection. And that gives them and I've done it since their entire lives. And so it gives them a sense of, you know what, I'm not in this by myself.
Hmm.
I don't have to bear this burden along. I have somebody that cares. It's amazing how I've heard stories about young men that never heard their dad say that he loved them or
Hmm.
that he was proud of them, and they've lived their entire life under the pressure and anguish of trying to please someone that they never could get their approval,
Hmm.
and the mental anguish that takes upon them and how it gets passed down. And so that is something that as a father that I really want to do, that I try to do to help. on the mental. It might not seem like that helps their mental health, but it does. It helps
Mm-hmm.
their self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
It helps them. It relieves the stress of thinking that they have all the burdens or weights upon themselves. They know that they can communicate. They know that they have somebody that will walk them through situations. I think that is so very important. What do you think about that?
I agree. I agree. And I've been able to see the fruit of that. Now that they are 19, will be
Hmm.
20 soon. They definitely feel okay, I can talk to mom, I can talk to dad if
Hmm.
anything is going on, feel a
Hmm.
certain way. And they know that they are supported. So I think those are definitely some important things
Hmm.
that just as parents we need to make sure that we're doing with our kids. It's like, believe it or not, it really is setting the
Hmm.
foundation for them to have really good mental health.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and um, when they were younger, I tried not to say, what, stop crying. I'll give you something to cry about.
Mhm.
Because, for us Gen Xers, we heard that all the time. Boy, be quiet. Ain't nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Tough it up, suck it up,
Right.
you know. Um, now I will say that sometimes that is appropriate,
Mhm.
for you tell them to suck it up, rub some dirt in it. And so, but we have to know our children as well, pay attention to them to know when that is appropriate to say suck it up, and then when it's the time to embrace them and tell them, you know
Yeah.
what, it's gonna be all
It's a
right.
good, especially when you're dealing with boys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so because we want them to be boys, young men, and grown men, but at the same time to have the emotional balance,
Mhm.
and not what's the term, the toxic masculinity,
Right.
that does our families harm. So that's one of the things that I've done with the boys. Um, you try to get them to express themselves, and getting them involved in certain things that even if they can't physically articulate themselves, to write, to journal,
Mhm.
but expressing yourselves, you can't keep stuff bottled in.
Mhm.
We have to find healthy outlets for our mental health. Sometimes we think physical health is just physical, but physical health helps our mental health,
And vice
as,
versa.
and vice versa. Talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit.
It is definitely true that you can be feeling anxious and feeling depressed, and it will actually cause physical symptoms. If you deal with anxiety, or even if you're dealing with depression, a lot of times when you're dealing with depression, you can't sleep.
Mhm.
So you up all night,
Mhm.
because you're depressed or maybe you're
Mm.
feeling anxious.
Anxious.
And so it does interfere with your ability to sleep. It interferes with your ability to concentrate. So now you can't work. You can't work because you're so anxious.
Mhm.
It may cause because you're not sleeping, maybe you're not eating right.
Mhm.
So now it's causing issues with your digestion,
Mhm.
things like that. So it definitely can cause a lot of physical issues, and vice versa. If you have already a physical issue or some type of medical issue, ailment that you're dealing with, and then you deal with depression and anxiety, things like that, it's going to make whatever you have medically worse.
Mm.
And so that's why it's so important that if you are dealing with any kind of issue, and I said, depression, anxiety, um, those are just easy that come to mind,
Mhm.
that you have to really say, hey, talking to your doctor, because we have to learn how to advocate for
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
We notice, okay, I haven't slept in 3 days.
Mhm.
I'm just not sleeping at all. That's not normal.
Mhm.
That's not normal. If you know that you're at work and you have a job to do, but you just cannot focus
Mhm.
because you're just worried about, what's going on with your body or what's happening, you have to be able to advocate for yourself and talk to the doctor and say, hey, I need help.
Mhm.
I need, I need help. And there's help out there.
Mhm.
So I just think that's something that we have to start doing.
Yeah, I agree. What I also think too is that we have to um uh with as men check in on one another
Absolutely.
about their our mental health. Hey man, what's going on? We check on everything else. How's work going? How's the family going? How the kids doing?
Mhm.
But we don't ask, so how's your mental?
Mhm.
How are things with you emotionally? Men don't talk like that.
Mhm.
But we need to.
Mhm.
You have anything stressing you out? Anything got you on edge?
Mhm.
Anything has you worried or concerned?
Mhm.
And because once again, um if we check on one another
Mhm.
as men, if we check on one another and talk in that manner, and our guys will express those things. Maybe if they wouldn't go to get help on their own, maybe we can encourage them. You know what, man? Maybe that sounds like something that you might want to,
Mhm.
check out. Just you need somebody that's smarter than me.
Mhm.
You need somebody that is more equipped
Mhm.
than me,
Mhm.
and encourage it and not uh denigrate them or make them feel ashamed
Mhm.
because pride in men,
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
don't want to feel ever that we are not enough. We
Mhm.
don't we don't ever want to be found lacking or that we are needy or that we're not on top of things. So if we can encourage one another to say, hey man, this will make you better.
Mhm.
It's not a swing. We want to make things better. It's not something that's going to make you feel less than. Uh, this going to put you on top of everything,
Mhm.
and we need to do that. And Sister Rice says sometimes all our kids needs is a I love you and a hug. That's right.
Yeah.
That is something that helps our mental. Uh, how many times, or just think of how many situations could we have rescued a young man from if somebody just would have grabbed him and hugged him?
And I think about that. And not only that, like we were talking about your friends, if you notice something, someone's not acting
Yeah.
normal, they've become withdrawn, they're quiet, they seem like, they used to come out, but now they don't,
Hmm.
or they don't seem like they enjoy doing some of the things that they're used to doing. Those are signs to say, hey, let me just check in
Hmm.
and see how that person is doing. It's important that we start doing that for
Hmm.
each other.
Yeah.
That's community. That's checking in on each other. Like, we weren't designed to be islands unto ourselves,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
So we have to really I think learn how to be able to look out for one another. And I think um just imagine how many people we can save
Yeah.
if you just take a moment to say, are you all right? You don't seem yourself. You
Yeah.
seem, you seem overwhelmed. Is there anything that I can do to help you? And hey, I know of a good
Yeah.
therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I know
Talk
somebody
about it.
who you can actually go see.
Yeah.
And again, if those are normal, part of our normal conversations,
Hmm.
then me giving you my a card to a therapist I know, that's not me saying I think
Think
you're
you're crazy.
crazy.
Right. Right. Yeah.
This is me
It's saying,
saying I just want you to, get some
I
help.
love you, and I
And I
want you.
love you.
Yeah.
I want you to get help.
Yeah, yeah, and that is so very true. And as a community, um, it is our responsibility to love on one another, to care for one another, to watch out for one another. And what we have to do, because this is what we do. We have conversations with our friends and we say, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
But we're not really paying attention to the answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We say how you doing, or what's going on, how you feeling, but we're not really listening to what the response is,
Mm-hmm.
or we aren't honest or transparent with our response. Somebody say, hey, how's it going? Man, I'm not doing well. Hey, okay, cool, that's good. We didn't hear the man just said, I'm not doing good.
Mm-hmm. And I would say if you in a circle of people and you can't tell them anything about you when you going through, they the wrong
So
circle.
you need a new
You
circle.
need you a new circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your circle should know you well enough
Yeah.
to know, okay, this is when he's doing good, and when he's not, they should be checking on you.
Yeah.
That's how a good circle is supposed to function. If you don't have that going on in your circle, you need to get you a new circle.
That's right. Well, like I said, everybody in your circle, not in your corner.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So as a wife,
Mm-hmm.
uh what when my mental ain't right,
Mm-hmm.
how do you try to help nurture, or how do you help me try to get back um on my square when you can tell, what, emotionally he's just okay, this is what he needs, this is what I'm gonna do. What do you do in those times?
Well, definitely I observe and I
Mhm,
watch.
mhm,
So I know when you are doing good, and then I know when you're not doing so good,
mhm,
So I watch and I pay attention, I know how you sleep.
mhm,
I know, when you're not sleeping. And so if I know that's okay, well, he's not sleeping, then I'm gonna ask, you
mhm,
doing okay? Because I notice you're not sleeping or you're not sleeping well. And so, I'm gonna come to you, now I'm always going to be um praying for you
mhm,
and talking to God about you, you know, and allowing me to see those things that I need to be able to
mhm,
see. Um, but I'm gonna come to you
mhm,
and say, "Hey, I know that you're not sleeping. What's
mhm,
going on?"
mhm,
Or I noticed that you seem a little tense or agitated. What's going on?
mhm,
So I'm going to give you that opportunity to be able to, open up and share what's going on. Now, just because someone does that, don't think that they're gonna open up and share.
right, 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 right.
So then that's the other piece of it.
Mhm,
You have to, allow, that person to be able to open up and share if
mhm,
they desire.
mhm,
And if they don't desire, because there have been times when I've asked you,
mhm,
you doing all right? What's going on? You don't seem like, you all right, seem like you bothered. Oh, I'm fine.
mhm,
You sure? Yeah, I'm fine.
mhm,
Okay. And so, what I do, I'm a pray, but I'm still checking you out.
mhm,
I'm still looking,
mhm,
to make sure that you're, at least okay,
mhm,
because maybe you'll figure it out on your own. But I'm still paying attention, I'm watching. But if it ever gets to a point where it's like, okay, now the first time I asked him, he said nothing. I'm asking him again, and we leaving here
uh-huh.
once he answers.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna get my answer.
Right.
And so, sometimes I've had to do that too.
Mhm. Right. You're right.
And I'm like, hey, you gotta open up. You gotta let me know. I can't help you, unless you open up and share. And I mean, we've done
Yeah.
that vice
That's
versa,
right. Yeah.
and so it's important to be able um to make someone feel comfortable in
Mhm.
their home, that you can share, you can be
Mhm.
yourself. When it's a bad day, you
Mhm.
can talk about your bad
Mhm.
day. You feel any stress, any anxiety, all of that stuff, to pay attention to that. And I just think that um whether it's a spouse, whether it's our children, we have to really make ourselves aware
Yeah.
of just like Jackie the other day. I'm like, ooh, that cough. Ooh, I hear that cough. That sounds gross. You hear it. You know, when something's not right with someone.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell if somebody got a headache. I can tell when somebody it's just not, maybe they're coming down with a cold. And I'm like, ooh, you blowing your nose, you coming down with a cold,
Paying
right?
attention.
And we pay attention, and then what do? We apply first aid, you know, immediately.
We don't,
Just like when you were, I remember a couple months ago, you were getting sick and you're like, oh, I'm not feeling so up. Let me go get that medicine.
Right.
Let me jump into action to get on top of it, because the quicker you get on top of it, the you know, less likely you're going to have a cold for a month.
Yeah.
Right. Because we didn't got on top of it. Right. We have to be the same way when it comes to our mental health. We have to be able to recognize, okay, wait a minute. So, you know, he's becoming withdrawn. He's becoming quiet. That's not his nature. And we have to apply that mental health first aid right then and there, right away.
That's good. And so it also, we have to create an atmosphere where we as men and young boys or older boys, that we can be vulnerable. That is so very difficult. And that's something I believe that women have to understand, that
it's easy for us.
It's easy for women to be vulnerable, but it is very difficult for men to be vulnerable, because just think, by nature, we are warriors, we are protectors, we're fighters, we're all of that stuff. Now, when I am vulnerable, I am opening up, I'm showing you my heart, I'm showing you where to stab me. And so we are always trying to guard that thing that would destroy us. We're guarding ourselves from the things that would destroy us. And so we don't want to make ourselves vulnerable. So with our sons, with our nephews, with our grandchildren, or our grandsons, since we're talking about men's mental health, and this can apply across the board to our young girls too, but with our husbands or whatever, we have to create an atmosphere where they can be vulnerable and know that you're not going to weaponize whatever they give you, not weaponize their vulnerability, their fears. Men hate to talk about what their fears are. They hate to talk about what their struggles are. They hate to talk about what their failures are, because once again, in our nature, is our desire to lead, to protect, to take care of, and all of that stuff, and all of those things say that you haven't done those things. And so we want to hold those things close to our vest. But if you see those things are not right, but if you have not created the atmosphere where the male can be vulnerable, he's not going to share.
Yeah. And we have to be very, like, as a spouse, we have to be very careful when you're trying to be vulnerable, what we say, right? So, you know, we're not being judgmental. We're not judging. We're not, well, I told you shouldn't have did that anyway, you know, but you did. So that's what you get. I mean, we have to be very mindful of what we say. And if anything, we have to learn how to listen. And so we're not, okay, we're just hearing what the person says so we can respond and tell them what they should do. No, that's that's not what we should do. But we're listening, we're actively listening to what they're saying and listening to the feelings and emotions behind it. And then even using like some reflective listening. So you said this, let me make sure I have what you're saying. So reflect it back to that other person. Okay, so you're saying that you feel very overwhelmed at work because of, Bob and John.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
things like that. And so really, because that helps the other person feel heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what we want to do when we are listening to, especially listening to a man is opening up and
Mm-hmm.
sharing. We want to make sure that we are really listening. And again, we're not listening to give feedback. We're not listening to give advice. We're not listening to just, say something and what they should have done and then they feel worse.
Right.
Have you ever talked to somebody and you felt bad and then you felt worse after you talked to them?
Open my mouth.
I shouldn't even be like, man, I shouldn't even said nothing.
Right.
And so a lot of times, that's how men might feel. And so we don't want that to happen, whether we're talking to our spouse or brother or whoever. We want to make sure that we are actively listening and just listening and hearing them, because if they feel comfortable enough to share and to be open, guess what? They'll do it again.
That's right. That's right.
And so when they do feel overwhelmed and when they do feel stressed, they know I can trust her and I can talk to her. And that's what a lot of our men need.
Man, that's good. And so I think we'll close it right there with that, because that's phenomenal. I will say that every man in the different stages of life needs four things. 4 P's. How I love my alliteration. But he needs a partner. He needs a pastor. He needs a physician and a psychologist. Those 4 professionals in different stages of life, we all need them. And we cannot or should not run away from any of them. And we should embrace all of them. And so that's where I would put a pin in our conversation tonight as we talk about men's mental health. Some things, like I said, need a pastor and a prayer. Others need a psychologist or a physician and a prescription. And we have to know the difference between the two. All right. But in the meantime, I'm not going to stop praying for you. I'm not going to stop taking care of those ministry or spiritual needs. And so if you want to see us before next Tuesday, you can see us on this Sunday at the Grace Missionary Baptist Church at 16650 Crawford Avenue in Markham, Illinois. Grace Missionary Baptist Church, the Grace Station, where we are transforming lives and building the kingdom. We are in the midst of our church's 45th anniversary. 45 years. And this past Sunday was phenomenal. We had my brother, Bishop Craig Johnson, out of San Bernardino, California.
Amazing,
He was amazing, talking about God knows what he's doing. And he says, God moves in 2 directions, up and forward. And so I believe you're going to be going up and forward as you embrace mental health. This coming week, we have my brother, my friend, Elder William Scott, coming in to be a blessing to us. So come on out and join us at Grace. We'd be happy to see you. But until next time, I'm Edward Jones IV. This is
LaTanya Jones.
And this is the Family First podcast.
See you soon.
See you next week.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communication Station.